All right, so we're going to be taking a deep dive into prepping for a night auditor interview. And we've got some pretty incredible resources from RoleCatcher, career guides, interview guides, and even get into like some of their AI tools. So really kind of unpack all of that to help you not only nail the interview, but understand like what the role really is and maybe even where it could lead you in the future.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about the night auditor role, it's often seen as just someone who checks people in at 3 in the morning. But it is so much more than that. It's really about keeping the hotel running smoothly overnight, handling guest requests, which can get pretty interesting, and even doing some light bookkeeping.
So you're like the conductor of this overnight orchestra, making sure all the different parts are working in harmony,
Mm.
which leads perfectly into our first interview question that RoleCatcher brought up. What experience do you have working in hospitality or as a night auditor?
This is really your chance to highlight any relevant experience you have. That demonstrates your skills and abilities in this area. So think about, have you worked at a front desk before? Have you worked in a fast-paced customer service role? Even if you haven't specifically been a night auditor before, what are those transferable skills that you've picked up along the way?
Yeah, so I mean, even if my previous job was as a barista,
Mm.
I could still talk about how I was handling customers, multitasking during a rush, keeping things organized and running smoothly.
Exactly. The key here is to connect the dots for the interviewer and show them how your past experiences have prepared you for this role. Even saying something like, while I was working as a barista, I developed strong customer service skills, code. I learned to prioritize tasks under pressure and became really good at handling cash and transactions accurately.
So it's like you said, connecting those dots, even if it doesn't seem directly related, it can actually be really relevant. So let's move on to another question that RoleCatcher brought up. That focuses on, I think, a really key aspect of this role. How do you prioritize tasks when working as a night auditor?
This is where you really want to showcase your organizational skills. Because as a night auditor, you're often juggling multiple tasks at once. So it's really essential to have a system for staying on top of things.
So if I'm using, a to-do list app or like a color-coded spreadsheet to keep track of things, I should mention that.
Absolutely. Sharing your process for managing your workload really shows the interviewer that you are organized, you are efficient. Even during the quietest or maybe craziest of night shifts, you could even walk them through like a typical scenario. Say like, okay, someone's checking in late, you're also handling a room service order and you're trying to get the morning reports ready. Like, how would you prioritize all of those things?
Yeah, paint that picture of how you operate in a real-world setting. So this next question, I think, is one that we all dread a little bit. How do you handle difficult or upset guests during your shift?
The inevitable tricky guest. So this question is all about showcasing your ability to stay calm under pressure, resolve conflicts effectively, and maintain a positive attitude, even in those challenging situations.
So it's not enough to just say like, oh, I'm good with people. I need to have a specific example of how I've actually handled a difficult guest.
Exactly. You want to use that STAR method: situation, task, action, result to structure your answer. So describe the situation briefly, explain the task at hand, outline the actions that you took to resolve the issue, and then highlight the positive outcome that you achieved.
So I could talk about a time when, let's say, a guest was upset about a noisy neighbor. Explain how I listened to their concerns, offered a solution, maybe moving them to a quieter room, and ultimately turn their experience around.
That's a perfect example. And it really shows that you can empathize with guests. You can problem solve effectively. And you go the extra mile to ensure their satisfaction. They might even follow up with something like, what did you learn from that experience? And how would you apply it to similar situations in the future?
It shows that you're not just reciting a rehearsed answer,
Mm.
but you've actually reflected on your experiences and how you've grown from those situations. So let's move on to a question that focuses a little bit more on the financial side of the role. How do you ensure accuracy when completing financial reports as a night auditor?
So even though this is an overnight position, it still requires you to have a certain level of financial literacy. This question is really about demonstrating your attention to detail and your understanding of the importance of accurate financial reporting.
Yeah, because even though it's the night shift, there's still those financial responsibilities.
Absolutely. The night auditor plays a key role in reconciling the day's transactions, preparing these financial reports, and making sure that everything balances correctly. So explain your process for double-checking your work using financial software and reconciling any discrepancies that may arise.
So if I have experience with, specific accounting software, I should mention that.
Yes, and don't be afraid to get into the specifics. You could say something like, I'm proficient in using X accounting software to generate daily revenue reports, balance guest ledgers, and reconcile credit card transactions.
Okay, so getting into that level of detail that shows you really understand those technical aspects. Speaking of keeping things secure, here's another question that RoleCatcher had. How do you maintain security and confidentiality when working as a night auditor?
So this is really about demonstrating your professionalism, your trustworthiness, and your understanding of those security protocols. Emphasize your commitment to following established procedures for handling guest information, securing sensitive documents, and protecting data privacy.
So talking about, things like properly storing guest keys, logging in and out of computer systems, and shredding any confidential documents.
Exactly. And you can even mention any previous experience you have with security training or protocols, whether it's from a previous job or even a volunteer role. This shows that you take security seriously and you understand the importance of protecting sensitive information.
We're getting into like a detective show here, it feels like. Okay, so this next one. How do you ensure that all guests are checked in and checked out in a timely manner?
This is a great question because it combines those elements of customer service and operational efficiency. They want to see that you can handle the flow of guests, smoothly, even during those peak check-in or check-out times, without sacrificing that welcoming and helpful demeanor.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance between speed and a smile.
Precisely. You could describe your system for managing check-in and check-out, maybe using a checklist, prioritizing tasks, or even leveraging technology to streamline the process.
Yeah, if they use a specific software system, I should familiarize myself with that beforehand and be able to talk about how I can use that effectively.
That's a great point. And you could even draw on experiences from other industries where you may have had to manage a high volume of customer interactions, like retail or food service, and explain how those experiences have honed your ability to work efficiently under pressure while maintaining that positive and professional attitude.
Okay, feeling much more confident about tackling these interview questions. But before we wrap up this first part of the deep dive, I wanted to ask about something that RoleCatcher mentioned in their career guide, and that is the role of AI in the job search process.
Yeah, their AI tools can be incredibly helpful, especially when it comes to tailoring your application materials and even practicing your interview responses.
Yeah, and I was really intrigued by this AI Copilot feature. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that works?
So imagine having this AI assistant that analyzes the specific job description for this night auditor role and then helps you craft your CV and a cover letter to perfectly match what they're looking for.
Okay, so saving me a lot of time and frustration, potentially. Does it also help with the interview prep?
Absolutely. It can analyze your video interview responses and give you feedback on your body language, your tone of voice, and the content of your answers. It's like having a personal interview coach right in your pocket.
Okay, that's pretty amazing, I've got to say.
Yeah.
I can definitely see how these tools could give you a competitive edge in the job market. All right, so let's get back to those interview questions. We've covered some tough ones, but RoleCatcher's got a few more up its sleeve. That, I think, are going to be really helpful for us to discuss.
Okay, so let's dive into another question from RoleCatcher's guide that really gets into those nitty-gritty responsibilities of a night auditor. How do you handle emergency situations during your shift?
Oh.
Such as a power outage or a fire alarm?
Oh, okay, that definitely sounds like a high-pressure situation. I wouldn't want to be caught off guard if something like that happened.
It's all about preparation and remaining calm under pressure. The interviewer really wants to see that you can handle a crisis safely and effectively while also reassuring those guests and maintaining order.
Yeah, so it's not just about knowing what to do, but also about projecting that sense of calm.
Exactly. You need to demonstrate both your practical skills and your leadership qualities. So explain your understanding of those emergency procedures, contacting the authorities, communicating with guests and staff, and ensuring everyone's safety.
So if I have any training in first aid or CPR or fire safety, this would be a good time to mention that.
Absolutely. It shows that you're prepared to handle those unexpected situations and that you take safety seriously. You could even talk about a time when you had to respond to an emergency in a previous role, even if it wasn't in a hotel setting. Maybe you had to evacuate a building during a fire drill or assist a customer who was having a medical emergency.
Yeah, those real-life examples always help bring your experience to life a little bit more. Okay, so this next question from RoleCatcher is a little bit more about time management. How do you manage your time effectively during slower periods of the night shift?
This one can seem a little tricky, But it's actually a great opportunity to showcase your initiative and that proactive mindset. They don't want someone who just sits around waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, got to be a go-getter, even when things are quiet.
Exactly. So explain how you use those slower periods productively. Maybe you catch up on some administrative tasks, like responding to emails or organizing paperwork. Or perhaps you familiarize yourself with the hotel's software system, or even review guest feedback to see, where things could be improved.
So even downtime can be a chance to shine. It sounds like a good night auditor is always thinking ahead and finding ways to contribute.
That is the key. And that's something that will definitely impress the interviewer. They want to see that you're proactive, resourceful, and always looking for ways to improve things.
All right, next question. How do you handle situations where a guest does not have a reservation or their reservation cannot be found? Oh, this one sounds like it could be a late night headache.
It can be a challenging situation for sure, but it's also an opportunity to really shine by showing off your problem-solving skills and your dedication to guest satisfaction. The key here is to remain calm and solution-oriented.
So instead of panicking, I should focus on, finding a way to help the guest, even if it means thinking outside the box a little bit.
Exactly. So explain how you would investigate the situation. Maybe double-check the reservation system using different search criteria, contact the booking agency, or see if there are any similar-sounding names in the system. And while you're doing that, it's important to keep the guest informed and reassured. And you're doing everything you can to help them.
Right, keeping that guest in the loop can really make a difference in how they perceive the whole thing.
Absolutely. And if all else fails and you really can't find their reservation, be prepared to offer some alternative solutions. Maybe you could offer a complimentary upgrade to a different room type, suggest a nearby partner hotel if yours is fully booked, or even help them find alternative accommodations if they're willing to travel a bit further.
So turning a potentially negative experience into a positive one through that creative problem solving and genuine empathy. All right, on to our, I think, final question here from RoleCatcher's Guide. How do you ensure that all guest requests are fulfilled in a timely and efficient manner? Sounds like organization and multitasking.
You're right on the money. This question is testing your ability to juggle those multiple requests, prioritize effectively, and deliver excellent service even during those busy periods.
It's like being a guest request ninja, silently and swiftly taking care of everything behind the scenes.
I love that analogy. So think about, how you would manage a constant stream of requests. From simple things like, needing extra towels or pillows to more complex needs like booking transportation or arranging for special amenities.
Yeah, and what kind of systems or strategies could I use to stay organized and make sure that nothing falls through the cracks?
One approach is to keep a detailed log of all guest requests, whether it's a physical notebook or a digital spreadsheet. That way you have this centralized place to track everything and make sure that nothing gets forgotten.
Yeah, especially during a busy shift, that would be really helpful.
You could also use a task management app or even just a simple to-do list on your phone to prioritize those requests based on urgency and importance. And don't forget about the power of communication. Keep the guests informed about the status of their request, provide realistic timeframes, and follow up to ensure their satisfaction.
So it's not just about fulfilling the request, but also about managing those expectations and making sure the guest feels heard and valued.
Exactly. Going that extra mile to provide personalized and attentive service can make a huge difference in that guest's overall experience.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. I feel like I have a much better understanding of what to expect in a night auditor interview. But before we wrap up this part of the deep dive, I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the role of AI in the job search process. Can you elaborate a bit more on how RoleCatcher's AI tools can actually help me stand out from the competition?
Sure thing. So remember how we talked about tailoring your CV and cover letter to perfectly match that job description? Well, RoleCatcher's AI can actually do a lot of that heavy lifting for you. It can analyze the job description, identify those key skills and keywords that the employer is looking for, and then suggest ways to incorporate those elements into your application materials.
So it's like having a personal career coach.
Yeah.
Who understands the ins and outs of the hospitality industry and can help me craft a CV and cover letter that really pops.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about keywords. RoleCatcher's AI can also help you quantify your achievements using metrics and data, which can make a big difference in catching the hiring manager's eye. For example, instead of just saying that you're good at customer service, you could say something like, I consistently achieved a 95% customer satisfaction rating in my previous role.
Ooh, those numbers definitely add some weight to your claims. What about the interview preparation tool? You mentioned that it can analyze my video responses and give me feedback. How does that work exactly?
Well, you can actually record yourself answering common interview questions, and then RoleCatcher's AI will analyze your video based on things like your body language, your tone of voice, and the content of your answers. It can even detect subtle things like, nervous habits or filler words that you might not even be aware of.
Wow, so it's like having a virtual mock interview with a personal coach.
Exactly. And the feedback you get is personalized and constructive, so you can identify those areas for improvement and really refine your interview skills before the big day.
I'm definitely going to have to check out these AI tools. It sounds like they could be a game changer in the job search. But for now, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the bigger picture. We focused a lot on the interview process, but I'm also curious to hear your thoughts on the career path of a night auditor. Where could this role lead me in the future?
That's a great question. And it's something that a lot of people don't consider when they first think about becoming a night auditor. But the truth is, this role can be a fantastic stepping stone to a variety of other positions within the hospitality industry.
So it's not just a dead-end job.
Not at all. In fact, many people who start out as night auditors go on to become front office managers, assistant general managers, or even general managers. The skills that you develop in this role, things like customer service, problem solving, financial management, staff supervision, those are highly transferable and in high demand throughout the industry.
That's encouraging to hear. It sounds like there's a real opportunity for growth and advancement in this field. What advice would you give to someone who is just starting out in this role and looking to kind of climb that career ladder?
I would say, first and foremost, focus on mastering those fundamentals of the night auditor role. Become an expert in all aspects of the job, from guest check-in and check-out to financial reporting and security procedures.
So it's about building that solid foundation and then looking for opportunities to expand my knowledge and skills even further.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to take initiative, Show that you're willing to learn new things. If your hotel offers, any training programs or cross-training opportunities, definitely take advantage of those. You could also consider taking some online courses or workshops to develop your skills in areas like, hotel management, accounting, or even customer service.
So that continuous learning is key, even in a role that might seem, fairly specialized.
Absolutely. The hospitality industry is constantly evolving, so it's really important to stay ahead of the curve and keep developing those skills. And as you gain experience and knowledge, start thinking about what areas of the industry you're most passionate about. Do you enjoy working directly with guests? Are you fascinated by, the financial side of things? Or maybe you have a knack for leading and motivating a team. Identifying those interests will really help you focus your career goals and make those strategic decisions about your next steps.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget about that bigger picture.
It is important to keep those long-term goals in mind. And don't be afraid to network with people in the industry. Attend industry events. Reach out to mentors who can offer guidance and support. The hospitality industry is all about relationships, so building that strong network can really open doors to some exciting opportunities.
This has been incredibly insightful. I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective on the night auditor role and the potential career paths it can lead to.
I'm glad to hear that. It's a role that is often overlooked, but it can be a truly rewarding and fulfilling career choice.
Now, before we wrap things up, I wanted to touch on one final point from RoleCatcher's career guide that I found really interesting. They mentioned that the average highest level of education for night auditors is surprisingly varied. What do you think that suggests about the accessibility of this role?
I think it's a really positive sign. It suggests that this is a field that values experience and skills just as much as formal education.
So for someone who might be, considering a career change, or who doesn't have a traditional 4-year degree, this could be a great opportunity to break into the hospitality industry.
Absolutely. The night auditor role is a fantastic entry point for anyone who's passionate about customer service, enjoys working in a fast-paced environment, and is willing to learn and grow.
And with the help of resources like RoleCatcher's AI tools and career guidance, anyone can gain that knowledge and confidence they need to succeed in this role and beyond.
That's a great point. These tools can really level the playing field and empower job seekers to put their best foot forward, regardless of their background or experience level.
Well, this deep dive has been packed with valuable insights and practical advice. I feel like I'm walking away with a toolbox full of strategies to not only help me nail that night auditor interview, but also navigate a successful career path in the hospitality industry.
I'm so glad to hear that. Remember, preparation is key. Take the time to research the company, practice your answers to those common interview questions, and utilize those AI tools to refine your application materials and boost your confidence.
And most importantly, go into that interview with a positive attitude, a willingness to learn, and a genuine passion for providing those exceptional guest experiences.
I think you're going to do great.
That's it for this deep dive into the world of the Night Auditor. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and gained some valuable insights along the way. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.